So this week, like I said, it's talking about basically artistic traditions. So the essential question is, how do the traditions of Africa help shape its culture? So all of the different aspects of dance and art and even theater, because we're going to talk about griots, which is basically an oral storyteller. And so that is really part of a theater realm. So we're going to get started. All right, let's get started. Storytellers maintain oral history. So, how did history get preserved in African culture? Mainly, not just from written work, because not everybody was able to read, but through oral tradition. So, Arabic was the only written language used mostly by government officials and scholars. So, it wasn't even used by everybody. Not everybody was able to read and write. So they had to figure out a different way to be able to preserve history. So the lack of written language did not stop history from being recorded because they passed down oral histories with storytellers called griots. So this is one of your key terms. So they are basically ancient African storytellers. They still have griots today. They aren't used quite the same way they do tell a history, but they're more historians than they are theatrical the way they used to be. Griots were highly respected in their communities because of their knowledge of the deeds of their ancestors. Because of their depth of knowledge of African history, they were held in very high regard. They were protected because they were the ones that held all of the history. So they wanted to make sure those people were protected and live long lives so that they could pass down the histories to other griots. The griots recited proverbs. The proverbs were short sayings of wisdom and truth. So they were like just little sayings, little things to remember that would provide wisdom, but also provide maybe even helpful dialogue for you to succeed in life. So beauty is in the eye of a beholder would be a proverb. Another proverb would be progress, not perfection. So you strive for progress, not necessarily perfection. Things like that would be considered proverbs. So here's griots. What do griots do? They are poets, historians, advisors, spokespersons, diplomats, peacemakers, praise singers, interpreters, translators, musicians, composers, teachers, warriors, witnesses. So a griot really had so many different roles, and that's one of the reasons they were very highly respected. So we are going to watch a video, and this video is a rendition of what a griot might have looked like. And like I said, there are griots today, but this is a rendition of what it would have looked like. They used musical instruments. They told stories through song. So many different ways to communicate their history. So we will watch this in class later this week. Really quick. There we go. All right. The next way that they communicated and recorded their history were called epics. So what were oral tradition? Why were oral traditions important in West Africa? Epics were long poems specifically about the different kingdoms and also the heroes of those kingdoms. So epics were really, really long poems that told the stories and the histories of these kingdoms and their people. The Dausi and Sundiata were examples of epic poems. So Sundiata, we know who Sundiata is, but there is an epic poem also titled Sundiata. So many people actually, when instead of doing your vocabulary terms from the book, you Googled the word Sundiata and it came up with the epic poem, not the leader, which is another reason why I say make sure you're doing the correct definitions. So Sundiata and Dausi were the names of two of the most famous West African epics. These told of historical events, myths, and legends of the empires. Remember that Sundiata was thought of as a magician, right? Part of why he was thought of as a magician is carried in the myths and legends of Sundiata, and it was written in this epic. The Dowsey, specifically, the epic poem Dowsey, recorded the history of Ghana. This is one of your key terms. So it's an epic poem that recorded the history of Ghana. That's what the Dowsey is. Sundiata was the title of an epic poem that told the history of Mali. So that makes complete sense, right? Sundiata was the original leader of Mali, created Mali when he conquered Ghana. So they named the epic poem after Sundiata. So we're going to look at sculptures now. So how were traditions preserved in Africa? So this is going to be the question for the rest of your notes, because these are all of the topics are different ways that they preserve tradition in West Africa. So this one question will work for the rest of your notes. All right, sculptures. Sculptures were ornate statues and carvings from wood, brass, clay, ivory, stone, and other materials. A lot of people believe sculptures are just clay, and they are not. You could carve a sculpture out of wood. You could create it out of clay. You could create a mold and pour brass into it. You could carve it out of ivory or of stone, many other materials as well. Sculptures were often people, like artists' ancestors. So they depicted their ancestors and people they believed embodied spirits and put those into their sculptures. Other statues were for religious rituals and gifts for the gods. And these were often kept in holy places. So these were kept in mosques and chapels. And sometimes their holy place would be outdoors. So somewhere where they can actually give a gift to the different gods. Artists believed to be blessed by gods because of their gifts. So artists, just like griots were considered artists as well. They were believed to be blessed by God to have this specific talent. Like God gave them that talent to be able to express about their ancestors and about their histories. And we all know not everybody is an artist. Not everybody has those specific talents. So because these people did have those talents, the people of Africa believed that artists had been blessed by God and were given this gift from God. So they were very well respected and very protected. So this is an example. You can see this is a face with a headdress. These are possible, like maybe the artist's ancestors, or even, like, for instance, this might be a spirit animal. So many different things. Masks and clothing. So you're going to read page 150 and 151 and take your own notes specifically about masks and clothing. Masks and clothing, sculptures, they're all part of what you can choose for the African artistic traditions projects. So make sure you really study up on the masks and the clothing. Here's an example of one mask and another. So many different forms. And this is a picture of what their clothing might look like. Very, very bright and colorful, lots of geometric pattern. You could also kind of see in their repetitive geometric pattern. We saw a lot of this in the Islam culture. We talked about mosaics being a repetitive geometric pattern, very similar to these. Okay. So this is the YouTube video I was talking about griots for music and dance. So we will come back to this later in the week. So singing and dancing were a form of entertainment, not only a form of entertainment, but a way also of communicating their history. So their songs and their dance would often depict some sort of historical event. So this is how they honored their history. One way would be music playing when the ruler entered a room. So they would play this loud, triumphant type of introduction music when a ruler would enter the room. This would also happen when they were going to prayer. There would be music. So music was really a way to honor their history. Dance was specific for events or ceremonies, usually weddings, even funerals. They danced specific dances for each event. And then we'll watch the video and you'll take more notes from the video as well. That. All right, so at this point, you know the drill. You're going to expand on your notes from the blank sections in the text. Make sure you read the text and then fill in those blank sections. Underline vocabulary or keywords. Highlight main ideas. Do not highlight the topics. We've been doing this every single week, and every single week I have about 10 kids that are still highlighting topics. Inside each section, make sure you're highlighting the main idea for that section. Create questions for each sections of the notes that don't have one in the slides, and also type the ones that I do give you in the slides. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you write your summary that answers the essential question in 2 to 3 sentences. And that's it. So there's no one pager for this section because you are going to be doing a actual project for this. So you won't have any one pager. It's just the notes and vocabulary. And then you'll work on the project for the rest of the week. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed learning about the artistic traditions of Africa.